An Exploration of the Filipino American Culture by Tapia, Department of Psychology, Liberty University. Throughout the process of completing the cultural immersion assignment, I was able to learn more about the Filipino culture. The following are 4 key elements that I was able to understand better. The first is intergroup characteristics, specifically when it came to the Filipino culture and the Mexican culture, which is my own. I was able to analyze and see that a lot of the similarities and differences between both of these cultures were seen because of the Spanish colonization of both countries. They had to assimilate to the Spanish culture and in turn lose a lot of their native roots. However, a difference is seen in the extensive colonization that the Philippines had to undergo. This caused for the Philippines to have a more difficult time embracing the different cultures that they were being exposed to, whereas Mexico was able to embrace it because it was only from the Spanish. Moving on was the intergroup characteristics. I was able to analyze that within the Filipino culture, there were 2 subgroups, specifically Filipinos that resided in the Philippines and Filipinos that live in the United States. My study was primarily on the Filipino American individuals. However, comparing them and seeing their characteristics allowed for a deeper understanding of this culture. For example, it was evident that the Filipino American individuals had to undergo a distinct form of cultural identity development when compared to Filipinos living in the Philippines. American Filipinos had to undergo a lot more of assimilation, and they faced a lot more of oppression and, in a sense, racism and different ideations and mentalities that were not helping in their development of their identity. Moving forward are common attitudes, beliefs, and values. Overall, I was able to see that the Filipino culture worked as a collectivistic culture and in a sense cared or centered a lot of their values around groups instead of just individuals. So the attitudes, according to Yanades 2021, are some that are of conformity, are of hospitality, and are of togetherness. And a lot of the values, the 2 prominent ones, are family orientation and also the importance of posterity. So to the Filipino American culture, there is a big emphasis on family. Family is a source of emotional, physical, and material support, according to Yanades 2021, and is something that is still very valuable to the Filipino culture in the United States. Also, it is seen that posterity is an important part of the culture, meaning that there is a big emphasis on future generations. This is seen in many Filipino families and the way that they cater a lot of the needs that their children have. They cater to that and help them in hopes of providing for them a better future and a better experience and success in the world. Moving forward is spirituality and religion. According to Tucson et al. 2019, 85% of Filipinos residing in the United States are considered to be Roman Catholic. So, because of previously mentioned colonization, the Spanish brought the Catholic religion, and that is something that is still very prominent and very common in the Filipino culture in the United States. It, however, is seen that the younger generations of this demographic are considered to be untethered and are losing a sense of their spirituality and religion when being compared to older generations. Moving forward, historical and current oppressions. As mentioned before, colonization has been a major form of historical oppression for the Philippines. They have been colonized by various other countries, so each group of colonizers had different motives. Thus, there were distinct outcomes that came from it. For example, the Spanish came with wanting to impose their religious views, such as Catholicism and also Hispanization. So a lot of what the Philippines endured caused for there to be a lack of their own island story. So their original culture, original language, traditions, and values in a way were lost and overshadowed because of colonization. One of the outcomes of colonization and that oppression that was faced by the Philippines is a lack of cultural roots. Many individuals, according to Hopkins 2021 and Eisen 2019, there are a lot of individuals who have colonial mentality, meaning that there is an innate feeling or an innate thought that Filipino culture is less than or is considered to be primitive. It is something that is unconscious to many individuals, has been instilled to them by many of their just surroundings and their environment. So that is an outcome of oppression, thinking that the Filipino culture is not one that should be valued or seen as good, but rather something that is seen as less than. So that is an effect of the constant colonization and the loss of their original culture. Filipino cultural exposure. I had the privilege of attending two events. The first is a Sunday service from the Filipino Bethel Baptist Church here in Escondido. And the second was the Tagalog language class, which was provided by the Filipino American Cultural Organization, specifically located in Oceanside. I was able to understand more of the Filipino demographic because of the differences of the events that I was able to attend. For example, the Sunday service, that one, although previously mentioned, most Filipinos are considered to be Catholic, this service was Baptist. So when I went in, I, in a way, did not quite know what to expect because my research did not demonstrate this specific demographic within the Filipino culture. However, I was able to learn more and see that there was a big emphasis on family in this event and in this church that was seen through the very beginning of the service to the very end of the service. And then moving forward to the Tagalog language class, it was something that I was able to see a lot of younger children being exposed to their Filipino roots and Filipino culture through the language. And that was something that my research demonstrated that many parents did not do. However, as I was exposed to it, many individuals are now seeing the value in their cultural roots and the Filipino culture itself. Thus, their children were there and were being taught the language. Filipino American Cultural Organization. I was able to interview Doris Harris, which is one of the leaders of the Filipino American Cultural Organization. She stated that their mission statement is to promote, preserve, and promulgate the Filipino cultural heritage through cultural education and charitable activities. Also, to spread cultural understanding and compassion between people. Doris emphasized greatly the need for the young generation to really take hold of their Filipino roots. And because of that, she emphasized that there's a lot of support for youth education, projects and charities in the Philippines, public libraries, and cultural programs to help instill the community, the Filipino community in Oceanside and the surrounding counties, exactly the need for the Filipino culture and the importance of it. Individual interview. I was able to interview Jasmine Cortel, which is a Filipino-American individual who is residing in Escondido. Both of her parents were young when they came to the United States, so a lot of her experiences here and being raised in the family household that she was, there was a lot of times where she expressed to me that there was a sense of inferiority with her culture, meaning that her parents in some instances would want for her to not be part of the Filipino culture or express that she was. She explained an instance in which her mother would constantly tell her to only go swimming in the afternoon when it was or at nighttime, so her skin tone would not get darker and in a way would protect her from certain instances at school or for her to be seen as less than. So in a way, it was her mom protecting her from being seen as less than per se. So there was a sense of inferiority, and also she experienced racism in the education setting, specifically as a child. However, recently she began to just analyze her experiences and is now utilizing them to encourage her to be proud of her own Filipino culture. Summary of the experience. Through both of my experiences, two main things were brought. And the first is it provided an insight on the experiences that shape individuals' view on the Filipino culture. I was able to see how each person is very different and had different experiences, even if they are part of the Filipino culture. The next is that it brought awareness to the importance of teaching individuals the respect for different cultures. That was something specifically in the interviews that I saw, that many individuals don't understand that it is necessary to be aware and be considerate of our words and the way we communicate. So just being aware that every culture is different and that it is something good is something that we should be instilling in people. Specifically in Jasmine's case, she experienced a lot of racism because of her Filipino background. So if we teach our children, if we teach other people to be more caring, that is something that will benefit overall different cultures, but also the Filipino culture. Application to counseling. There were 3 specific points that could be applied to counseling from my experiences and my research. First is everyone is different and has different experiences. Each counselor, especially in a multicultural setting, should understand that everybody is different and that every experience, even if they are considered a specific culture, doesn't mean that they are the exact same. The next is be intentional by being empathetic and listening. When you're dealing with clients, as for example, I was interviewing different people and being exposed to different things, it is important for us to be intentional with listening and being empathetic, especially if we're not part of that culture. And the last one is to analyze who each client is to provide the best support. Each client, regardless of their culture, is in a different season of their life and in a different mindset. So it's important for counselors to really take into account what's part of assimilation they're at, or what their mentality is like when analyzing their culture, to better cater to them and be counseling them effectively and in a way that will provide with them the best support that they need to reach wellness. Overall, this experience was one that was very eye-opening and crucial if potentially I become a counselor, and hopefully be a multicultural counselor in the future and be exposed to multi-ethnic families. So it was a great experience, and I was able to learn a lot from it. The references are the following. Thank you.